This video is presented by the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center. The Combat Center's mission is to provide a standard of excellence in managing facilities, services, and support to the operating forces and families in order to ensure the readiness of tenant and resident commands aboard the Combat Center. The MAGTF training program exists to manage and conduct service-level MAGTF combined arms training to enhance the combat readiness of the operating forces and support the Marine Corps' responsibilities to national security. The Combat Center has achieved numerous awards for environmental sustainability, including the 2016 Secretary of the Navy and Secretary of Defense Environmental Award for environmental quality in the non-industrial installation category. The base is able to achieve these environmental breakthroughs because of the G4 installations and logistics programs, including the Natural Resources and Environmental Affairs Office.
The mission of Natural Resources and Environmental Affairs here on 29 Palms is to provide the resources and the expertise to allow for the Combat Center to consider all aspects of the environment as they plan and execute advanced training here aboard the installation, while at the same time being good stewards of the environment.
So, as an ecologist, I oversee a lot of different responsibilities, almost sort of an ecosystem-wide type of understanding, but there are certain species that garner more attention for various reasons, and one of them is the desert tortoise. The Combat Center is extremely involved. In fact, there's many facets of what we do. We are sort of the focal point, and then we engage all the other directorates here on the base. So we work closely with them to try to figure out what is the best way to do these activities, allow training that has the minimum impact on the species. And conversely, how do we protect a species that has the minimum impact on the mission, which is training of the Marines?
This whole site, the whole 2 miles, is off limits to all military activity, whether it's vehicular or pedestrian travel. And it is protected on the National Register, which means it's a federally protected site. The rock art you see here are both pictographs and petroglyphs. This art here is abstract in design, and it's specific to the prehistoric Native Americans of this area. I think the rock art is very well done. It's aged very well. There's not really heavy patina on any of it. So yeah, it's a very excellent example of Southern California and Great Basin rock art. The Combat Center has done a great job protecting this art. It causes an archaeologist as myself, or other anthropologists and other archaeologists, to look a little deeper into what we think rock art represents and what we believe was the reason for putting this kind of artwork up.
For water conservation, the goal is to maximize our water resources and limit the use of potable water for non-potable use to the maximum extent practical without impacting training. By capturing that wastewater, recycling it, treating it, and turning it into secondary disinfected water for reuse on irrigation, that has a large reduction in the use of potable water for irrigation. From FY14 to FY15, we saved over 130 million gallons. So all of the successes that we've had to date as both environmental and the Water Conservation Task Force honestly have been directly proportionate to the senior command staff here and their support. So the Commanding General recognizes the need to maintain mission here. He also recognizes that we are in a desert environment, and it's critical that we have water to be able to support these efforts.
The Qualified Recycling Program is different on this base than the other military installations throughout DoD. We have morphed into collecting residential and commercial trash, solid waste. The hazardous waste facility, we collect, process, manage, transport, and subsequently dispose of the installation RCRA, EPA regulated, and California regulated hazardous waste streams. The Rain Sustainment Branch, it received 4 all of the range residue, the dunnage, the ordnance-related items that were fired out in the training area. It provides the installation, after collecting those items, quality inspections and reassurances that materials that are potentially dangerous aren't going to be recycled and put back into commerce.
Marine Sustainment Branch is a MDAS facility. It's a materials deemed as safe facility. We receive all material coming off of the training area. As the Marines are training out there, they police up their own brass and links and they bring it over to us and then we process it. All the aluminum munitions that come into our yard, we have the ability of sorting through it to make sure it's safe enough to go through an aluminum smelter that burns at about 1650 degrees. Aluminum usually melts right around 1250, 1300 degrees, but we have it burn a lot higher so that way we can get rid of all the particulates that go into the air.
2 of the 3 facilities on Rifle Range Road basically sustain themselves from the revenues they generate from the sales of recycled products, whether it be heavy steel, cardboard, battery reconditioning. Some of these batteries cost $500 each. A tank, for example, will use 6 of those batteries. We have equipment that will clean the lead plates, making the battery capable of now generating electricity. That's immediate savings.
NEPA is actually a policy act, National Environmental Policy Act. It was actually enacted in 1969, which is a federal requirement that requires all federal entities to assess all environmental impacts on human resources. Therefore, we have to ascertain that no matter what we do, we adhere to the policy that we established not only from the Marine Corps order, but within the Combat Center order itself. In other words, we cannot really operate aboard the space without some level of NEPA documentation and establish policy on how they're going to meet the regulatory requirement. By us continuing to develop or actually analyze the impact of human resources on training activities, we actually have that balance where we meet environmental regulatory requirements while meeting training mission.
Pollution prevention is the identification of means and methods and processes for the elimination and minimization of toxic environmental pollutants. You have the air management resources section, you have the water resources management, you have the toxic release inventory reporting, we have our spills abatement, we have our AST, UST underground storage tank program, we have our investigation, remediation, and restoration for installation restoration and munitions response sites. Well, on the water conservation side, just ensuring that everybody understands what water conservation is. On the hazardous waste side, ensuring that hazardous materials are reduced as much as possible at the beginning source. So making sure that hazardous materials are included on an authorized use list. Making sure that the materials are authorized for procurement by a unit, but also when they go to dispose of that material is used for reuse. So at our hazardous waste management branch, those materials that are no longer used by that unit can be reused for another unit, which saves on costs. So as we move forward in reducing those toxics, identifying those pollutants that we should be managing more effectively and efficiently to ensure that as we set those standards, we don't impact the training mission.
The main thing about compliance is preventing regulatory action aboard the Combat Center. We're here to make sure that we meet all the headquarters Marine Corps, federal, state, county regulations, air permits, so all of those things help the NREA maintain compliance aboard the Combat Center. For the base, we inspect anything that might have an environmental impact aboard the installation, such as hazardous material storage, stormwater drains, generator permits, oil water separators, anything that might impact the environment. The mission of the base is to train Marines, and the NREA stands with the units aboard the Combat Center to make sure that all of the regulations are met and can continue to train Marines.
The clear CLEO program is an intricate part of NREA under G4. And what we do for the base is we protect and service the natural and cultural resources. They learn where our natural resource sites are, our archaeological sites, and then some of our more environmentally sensitive sites. Individuals that are not CLEOs that work for NREA, they're subject matter experts and have their fortes in each of their departments. We should be, as conservation law enforcement officers, extremely well-rounded and have a working knowledge of what each of them do and of the violations that pertain to each of those departments. We have to be aware of how we utilize that we do that in a responsible and a respectful manner, and that our footprint, so to speak, is light. While NREA works out the logistics of what the Marine Corps can and can't do out in the field, we follow those plans and make sure that there is no legal violation. We make contact with Marines and civilians alike out in the field, and that's part of the education process. The key is education here.
NREA is an important element of the installation staff. The conservation of our valuable resources is important to enable us continued training for service level training for the Marine Corps and our partners in this unique desert landscape.